Howdy, this is Mackenzie Franklin from SideGame LLC here in Colorado Springs, Colorado. We're continuing our Best of 2022 list series with the best board games of 2022. If you haven't subscribed to the channel already, please make sure that you do. It is the best way to help us grow. And for those of you who already subscribed, thank you so much for the continuous support. Let's talk about the best board games from 2022. Before we begin, I have two honorable mentions, starting off with Great Western Trail, Argentina. Now, the reason this one's an honorable mention is because while it has replaced my desire to play the original Great Western Trail, I think the mechanisms are so close and so similar that I don't think it needed to be on the entire list per se, but it is my preferred go-to. It adds some new mechanisms that are going to add new characters to enlist their aid from, a new delivery system, as well as adding to the multi-use functions of the cards. It's one to look out for, and if you like Great Western Trail, this is a no-brainer get. So that's my first honorable mention, Great Western Trail, Argentina. My next honorable mention here is for Super Fantasy Brawl, one of the best skirmish games, period. You're assembling a team of characters and going to fight one another. Each character has its own thematic 6 cards that you'll shuffle together, and so you'll have this 18-card deck that you'll get to know through the course of your play that is easy to read, thematic, and a lot of fun. My favorite thing is this objective system that's going to make it not just about the points from knocking out the opponent's characters, but also from competing these objectives, which is going to allow you to gain points from tactical play and positioning. I love the combination here, and this is one of the best skirmish games, period. And that being said, the reason that it's an honorable mention is because it does say 2022 here as the release date, but I've been playing this game since 2020. I'm pretty sure the expansions came out this year, so I'm curious why this has that 2022 tag, but I do think it's an incredible game, so if it did come out in 2022 officially, then it needed to be on this list anyway. So that's my second honorable mention. That is Super Fantasy Brawl. With that all being said, let's start the list with number 10. My number 10 goes to Planet Unknown. This is a polyomino laying game where you are going to have a corporation and a planet board. Every round, whoever's first player is going to spin this lazy Susan in the middle of the table and choose a tile that they want, put it in front of their colored arrow. Everybody else takes one of the tiles that's in the depots in front of their colored arrow. So if it's your turn, you get whatever you want, but otherwise you still get a choice of 2 tiles. You're placing these tiles onto your board, and then based on where you put them, you're going to get to move up on these different tracks associated to the symbols of the tiles you took, getting powers and abilities, bonuses. You even have tech tracks that you're going to be going up, and this plays from 1 to 6, making it one of the best family games that came out this year, and it also plays simultaneously, so everyone's constantly engaged. Now, my favorite part about this game is actually the asymmetry that's involved on the backside of the boards. Every single planet and every single corporation has a special ability on the other side that makes it unique, and you're going to be pairing them with each other, making all sorts of different combinations, leading to fun, outrageous combos. Now, while some are not going to be particularly well balanced against each other, the fun factor is still there, and this is a joy to explore no matter what player count. So that's my number 10, Planet Unknown. My number 9 goes to Oathsworn Into the Deepwood. This is a cooperative game where you play as the Oathsworn who are fighting off these terrible creatures that are in the Deepwood. This is grimdark fantasy where all of humanity is stuck in these bastions while this expanse of forest has been taking over the land. You play a story half, and it's narrated by Jorah Mormont from Game of Thrones, and your decisions in the story are going to take you to the encounter where you fight a giant beastie. These beasties have hit locations you'll be taking out, and you'll use your own special deck of action cards that use this cooldown system where they'll go around your board to try to take it out in time. You can play with up to 4 people, and you can raise and lower the complexity as you see fit, whether or not you're playing solo or cooperative up to 4, and I love the flexibility and the diversity of the monsters and the characters. My favorite part about this game is the skill test system, and luckily you'll be doing this a lot in the game. Every time that you fight something and attack, or if you're doing one of the story tests, you're going to take a look at your skills and assemble your dice pool based on these results, but you can always take as many white dice as you want. After assembling, you'll roll them up, and then you're looking for 2 blanks. If you get 2 blanks, you automatically fail, but notice you're going to be taking as many dice as you want. If you see that out of all those dice, there's only 1 blank or less, then you know you've succeeded, and your successes are going to be based on all those numbers that are not blanks that you add together. It's an awesome, gratifying feeling where you're not having to check every single time whether you pass or fail, but when you do pass, it feels so good to start just adding up all those big numbers. In addition, this works with a attack modifier deck, a deck of cards that represents the odds that show up in dice, but you can choose to use the cards, you can use the dice, you can use combinations of them, you can choose when you want to use each. So say you hit your white deck of cards and you've hit all of the successes. You just don't touch that white deck of cards now because you know that all all the rest of them are misses or low numbers. So it's a super cool feeling to know you can sort of game the luck here in the game, and there are even some cards you can play that can reshuffle the decks to put them all back and reset your odds. What an awesome design choice, and that flexibility of choosing cards and dice that just push this entire system along. Love this game at the 1 all the way up to the 4 player count. That is Oathsworn into the Deepwood, my number 9. My number 8 goes to Sky Mines. So it has you playing as investors on the moon. There are all these corporations that are vying for control, spreading out their influence, and you're trying to invest in the ones that are going to be the most profitable. Get them out on the board and put your money into them. But everybody can invest in every company, so you're trying to do the ones that are going to be the most beneficial for you. Now, that being said, my favorite part about this game is actually the action card system. Every round, you're going to assign these cards face down in your open areas, and then you reveal them, and based on the symbols you've chosen, you can use them to perform actions. They're simple symbols with powerful action implications and immediate effects on the board that have a lot of tactical play as you're going only taking one action at a time. Once you're done with the round, though, all of your cards will be face down. You'll take every single card and you'll have to put it in a separate discard pile at the top here. But before you do that, you'll return one of these discard piles to your hand. What this means is that that turn that you just took can never be replicated again for the rest of the game, basically, because all of those cards are now split up in different discard piles. But now every time you put a card in a discard pile, you're planning for a future turn because you've just refilled your hand with all of those discard piles. I love this card system so much. I want to see it in more games, maybe more heavy, more simplified games. Give it to me in any shape or fashion. I love the card system in Sky Mines, my number 8. My number 7 goes to Caper Europe. This is a dueling game where you play as thieves trying to do the greatest heists in all over Europe. So you're doing this through the use of playing cards in a tug-of-war system. There'll be 3 locations, and you'll play spies, and those spies will have gear, and then based on the powers and abilities of those cards, you'll either be able to steal different items from the locations or win control of them, which will let you score at the end. My favorite part about the game is just the cards themselves. You'll play them in these orders here. First, the spies, which can generate you money, and then the money will allow you to play your gear cards. And those gear cards are going to allow you to move these tracks in the middle here, and every single location is going to have some form of endgame scoring that's going to change your approach, change the value of certain cards, and some of these areas also have effects when you play specific types of cards there. You're trying to figure out where you need to put your thieves so you can maximize the amount of cards you can play into the different sections to gain control of them, get max value from those buildings, but all in this back and forth drafting system that works brilliantly. I love the graphic design of the cards, how easy it is to read and play, and the cherry on top here is the fact that there are multiple locations that you can visit that you'll add to your game every time to add to the variability. For example, we just played in Rome, and that location had it so that every time you won specific areas, you would gain even more points, so it pushed heavy onto the area control aspect on the tug-of-war tracks. I love this game. It's one you need to try. This is the best Keymaster game, period. That is my number 7, Caper Europe. My number 6 goes to Massive Darkness 2, Hellscape. This has you playing as warriors who've been trained in fighting in the darkness. You'll go from scenario to scenario, fighting demons and creatures, and getting showered in more loot than you'll know what to do with. This is a cooperative game that has a foundational core that's similar to something like Cthulhu Death May Die. You'll have certain number of actions you can use, and the dice system has you doing lots of re-rolls, not just your own, but also enemy rolls. So there's attack and defense manipulation. Now, with that being said, the thing that makes this game stand out, aside from that loot system where you're constantly getting new special powers and abilities, is the unique nature of the characters, and that's one of my favorite things. Another character with a bit more added complexity is the wizard here, and this character has the effect of being able to cast spells on their wheel. If they cast their spell, they move the wheel, and then they can continue casting spells, being efficient, but you can always spend magic to move it a little further if you're trying to get a specific action to trigger. And I love the way that the level up cards tie into the special abilities of the characters as well. Every time you defeat a certain amount of monsters, you'll be able to grab one of these upgrade cards, and for the wizard specifically, it ties into the wheel. You're actually going to place it onto one of those slots, so when you turn your magical wheel, you'll be able to trigger that effect. Most of the characters are like this, where those upgrades fit perfectly in their skill set and their unique mechanisms that are present. Overall, this is an amazing cooperative game from solo up to 4. You'll be hacking, slashing, gaining special powers and abilities, and ultimately saving the day. So that is number 6, Massive Darkness 2, Hellscape. My number 5 goes to Vagrantsong, where you play as train hoppers who have found their way onto a ghost train. It's up to you to return the humanity to these spirits or haints while retaining your own humanity. This game has you playing scenario experiences with small objectives that guide a boss battling system. You're going to use this unique coin action system, and based on the amount of coins that you use for your different actions, it's going to increase the power of those abilities. And one of my favorite parts about this game are the actual abilities of the characters. Every time that you finish a scenario, you'll get the option to add new abilities to your repertoire. Now, these abilities are not necessarily just more powerful, but they have varied, interesting effects that are going to sometimes even reflect the scenario you just completed, and you'll see how they actually affect those future scenarios that you'll bring into. I love this idea that it's not just about power, but being creative in how you use your different abilities. I also love the bindle system, this bag where you're going to be pulling out tokens. Not only are the items that your characters are going to be using, but they track how the enemy are going to be using their abilities. And once a certain amount have been pulled, it's going to reset the bag and also cause special events. I won't get into any spoilers here or anything, but the entire system is smart and unique. The art is amazing and flavorful. The theme comes out and the characters are interesting and varied, with the scenarios being just the same in their creativity. Oh, I love this one. This is one of my favorite cooperative experiences, as well as one of my favorite campaign games, period. This is Vagrantsong, my number 5. My number 4 goes to Ascension Tactics, the miniatures deck building game. This is a competitive, cooperative, or solo board game where you're going to be taking your hero set. You'll have 4 different champions and sparring with an opponent. Now, this is a deck building game at its core where you're building your deck up and using 2 forms of currency. The first currency is how you buy new cards, and then the other form is command, which is going to be used to be activating your champions on the board. Based on the scenario, you'll be moving them down different lanes, claiming control of things. For example, we just did a capture the flag one in the last mission, so there's a lot of different variety when it comes to the different missions that you're able to pick from, but each one is going to utilize those 2 currencies and push your objectives forward. My favorite ways to play this game are the 1 and 2 player counts. The solo mode rated very highly on my top 10 solo board games of 2022, but the competitive 2-player mode is my favorite way to play. And that has to do with the scenario design and how many different options there are for single shot missions in that head-to-head space. And my favorite part about this game, though, has to be the champions themselves. I love that they have different effects, and at the start of each match, you're going to be drafting your champions and building your team, setting your strategy up for the game you're about to play. So each different scenario is going to have different goals and missions that certain champions may excel at. For example, in that capture the flag scenario, I used the Ascara of Fate, who actually is represented by 2 different miniatures. And so when you summon them, you got to control both of them. It was awesome for positioning and ganging up and attacking the same character and making sure that my opponent wasn't able to score extra points. And a lot of these become even more flavorful based on the cards you're able to bring into their deck from that market. So you're playing as tactically as possible to build out your different strategies that you've decided to draft towards. So there's that long-term strategy from the very first pick all the way to that tactical play, hence Ascension Tactics, the deck building miniatures game. My number 3 goes to Wonderland's War. This has you leading a faction of Wonderlandians into battle, gaining powers and abilities, and seeing them play out in a variety of combats. At its heart, Wonderland's War is a bag building game. In the first half, during the Tea Party phases, you're going to be getting powers and abilities to put chips into your bag and placing units into different areas so you can participate in conflicts. And then you enter the war phase where you fight. This game is all about being in battles, fighting in those battles so that you can use the abilities of your chips and gain points in a variety of ways. This features one of my favorite things where you're able to gain powers and abilities and then immediately use them, and it feels so gratifying as you bolster up your powers, and every age those powers get more and more insane. While the war phase is amazing, using the powers and abilities of all the chips you've gathered, getting the chips is just as exciting, and I think it's actually my favorite part of the entire game. You're going to have this large Tea Party board here, and every turn you're going to move your miniature along to take one of the cards. It'll add new chips to your bag, new upgrades, new Wonderlandians, as well as special chips that you'll have that no one else will. This is one of my favorite things in games like this, things like Blood Rage, where you're able to get monsters with their own special powers. It is present here, and it is so much fun. They become recurring characters that you and only you get. But eventually you're going to get to the end of this path of cards, and then you'll have to reset the table. And every time you do that, you're going to gain some negative points points, which can potentially add bust chips into your bag. When you're doing the actual fights, you'll be pulling out the chips one at a time, and some of those chips are going to deplete your characters and eventually cause you to bust and get kicked out of one of the fights. So I love this push and pull of trying to make do with what is present and pushing your opponents to try to reset the board to give you more options, but you can also just say, hey, I'm going to get the negatives anyway and always get your best pick. It's an awesome push and pull that allows you to make the bag the way you want to, but you may have to contend with some of the consequences if you do. I do want to mention quickly that the player count from this game goes from 2 to 5, with 5, 4, and 3 being games that I'm always ready to jump into. But I was so surprised with how well the 2-player version of this game worked. You're actually going to have some more incentive to winning battles in the same consecutive areas because it's harder to build castles, which are a form of endgame scoring. In the normal game, you just had to win a single time, but in the 2-player mode, you actually have to win the same sections multiple times to construct these castles, making it much more contentious for these different areas and trying to win successive combats. I was brilliantly surprised with that 2-player mode, and I think it needed to be mentioned here. So that is number 3, Wonderland's War. My number 2 goes to Paperback Adventures. This is a roguelike word-building, deck-building game. You're going to be going through 6 encounters. They're going to progressively get harder, and in each encounter, you're going to use your deck of cards to build words. Based on the symbols that you accrue on the side of the words here, you're going to get all of those different powers and abilities, defense, attack, and generating energy to use your different items. You'll then activate the ability on this top letter, but then that letter will get removed from the game, so your deck is getting smaller, meaning that you need to wrap up this encounter quick before you become fully exhausted. Then the enemy is going to do their thing, and it's going to go back and forth until you've defeated the creature or completed the entire game or died. So you're trying to do your best to manage your resources, gain these crown resources so you can buy upgrades for your deck, and also carry that health to fight multiple big endgame bosses. This game, where do I begin with this one? I just want to start off with the character design on this is incredible. On top of that, the upgrade system is phenomenal as you're constantly getting these little bonuses and abilities that have game-breaking effects. For example, the shop here, you can spend your crowns to get new item cards. This allows you to spend your energy to get new abilities and powers. You also have these MacGuffins that you can buy that give you constant passive abilities. The more that you stack up, though, the crazier they become. And lastly, you can actually add new cards to your deck, which will give you new symbols and icons and allow you to craft your deck in a way where you're able to construct new words at a better rate. And then lastly, you can upgrade the cards that are already in your deck by flipping them over and obtaining additional symbols. Due to the nature of this game being a combination of word building and almost combo fighting style, you're going to have an awesome cross mix of powers and abilities that use both of those facets, having to do with dealing damage, defending, vowels, specific word structure. This is such an amazing design that utilizes all facets of both of these genres, the word and the roguelike deck building idea. Now, this game rated extremely highly on my solo board games list of 2022. It is rated a 10 out of 10 after all. But one thing I didn't mention was the customization of the difficulty from scenario to scenario. Now, these cards are used in order to adjust the difficulty, and based on the number here, if it's a negative number, it makes it easier. If it's a positive number, it makes it more challenging. And so you can scale the rating based on how much of a challenge you want. I love this concept and the fact that these cards are double-sided, they work inversely, and you can choose how many of them you want to add to your experience. One of my favorite ways to play this game to just relax and chill is to use the Animal Companion encounter upgrade here. This one allows you to start the game with an extra wild card, essentially, making it so that creating words is a lot more leisurely, and also you're generating more energy passively, and it rewards you for creating words without the wilds as well. I love that simple addition that is going to have huge implications to the entire experience, and you can tune the game as you see fit based on your experience with it. I love these so much. I strongly recommend this game at the solo player count, but the 2-player version of the two-headed giant works well as well. You'll have a single character and you're sharing one deck, but your items and your MacGuffins are going to be back and forth. Now, that is a little bit easier in my opinion, as you have basically 2 sets of items that you can combo off each other, but I think that with these modification cards, you could ramp up that difficulty to make up for it. So that is my number 2. What an amazing game. This is Paperback Adventures. But my number 1 board game of 2022, and now my favorite board game of all time, this is Blood on the Clocktower. If you want a more in-depth review of this game, there's actually one on the channel, so you can see all of my pros, cons, and neutrals for it there, but I'm going to get into a quick overview of this game, why I like it, and why I think you should be playing it. Now, first off, Blood on the Clocktower is a social deduction game where the emphasis is on the deduction. deduction. Every character is going to have a special ability or power that will push them to be trying to figure out who the demon is, or if you are the demon, trying to keep yourself alive. All that self-preservation. The goal is simple. If you are a good character, your goal is to find and execute the demon, but if you are the demon, your goal is to be alive with one other player. This is an arduous journey and task as you trudge through day and night, gaining information and claiming accusations, using powers and abilities to make it so that your team ends up on top. Now, one of my favorite parts about this game has to be the storytelling aspect. I've actually only played this game as a player 7 times, but being the storyteller is almost as fun, and I would say I actually have more fun playing as the storyteller than playing in the game itself, which is insane to me that DM in a game like this could be a blast. Now, the way it works is you're going to have all of the tokens behind your little player screen here. They've got this felt back, so they stick on here, and then you're able to put these reminder tokens on the board, activate when effects and triggers will happen, and also manage the interactions that can potentially occur. One way that the game plays into this is with a special ability called Poison and Drunk, and this is one of the coolest mechanisms, period, but also is why it requires a person controlling the entire game, me, the storyteller. Now, this is the drunk and poison mechanism. If anybody is drunk or poisoned, their effect doesn't work, but the coolest thing about it is they don't know it doesn't work. So if they are drunk or poisoned, you as the storyteller are going to pretend that their ability is working, but they don't actually know this. This could result in them, if they are getting information for their role, you are telling them blatant lies, which is hilarious because that's going to push them into believing that they're actually learning correct information, but they don't know that they were poisoned or drunk, and so they have no idea what's going on and have to puzzle that out. It's just another form of deduction using the abilities and information of the people that are playing in order to figure out who is getting good and who is getting incorrect information. I love this so much, and I think that's what makes the narrating role so much fun, because you have to, in the moment, create the decisions that are going to set up potential plays and world views of the situation that is at hand. Oh, such an incredible aspect of the game, and it's so simple to execute and explain and understand. The last thing I want to make sure I highlight here is just how amazing the different characters are in the game, and the way that these pre-built scripts, as you can see here, Trouble Brewing, Bad Moon Rising, and Sex and Violets, utilize those different combinations of characters. And when you play, you're going to pick a script, and it's going to have an assortment of good characters and bad characters with all sorts of varied powers and abilities. But there's been so much playtesting done in this game that they have been able to create scripts where everything works together and is able to set up scenarios that seem unimaginable. For example, in Bad Moon Rising here, a lot of the characters have the abilities to stop death, cause extra deaths, even be able to resurrect people from the grave. And in tandem with the different demons who are doing the same thing, it's so much fun to puzzle things out. We played a 17-player game of this the other day, and my gosh, it was awesome seeing this constant revival, these checks, trying to prove who was telling the truth by doing some public executions. For example, there's a character here called the Tea Lady, where if both of your alive neighbors are good, they can't die. But there are other characters that can prevent their own deaths, or bad characters that can prevent deaths that are purposely blocking people next to the Tea Lady to make them believe that they are good characters. This is such a well put together script, and you can tell that there was thought, purpose, and intent with every single choice that was made in the creation of Blood on the Clocktower. I love this game so much. It is my favorite board game right now. That is Blood on the Clocktower, my number 1. I'll quickly add player counts in here. You can play this game and have an amazing time from 6, including a storyteller player, so 7, I guess, all the way up until that 20-player mark. I recommend it at any player count. I think the sweet spot is maybe in the 10, 11, or 12 range, but I've had fun at every player count that I've tried it at, and it's a game that I just want to play more of. If I have any opportunity to play it, I'm gonna take it. So that's my number 1, Blood on the Clocktower. And that's it. Those are my top 10 board games of 2022. I'm curious to hear what you thought of the list, if you thought I missed any games that needed to be on here, what you were surprised about, and if you agree with them at all. What are your favorite board games from 2022, and which ones should I be checking out next? Thank you so much for watching, and thanks for joining out on all of these best of 2022 lists. Take a look in the playlist. I've got all those videos there, and I'd love if you check them out. But thank you so much for being here and watching SideGame Strong.